This is Mara Elaine from the Buying Space Channel. Today is the fourth day of Christmas. Now, in the liturgy, the fourth day of Christmas is very, very sad. It's about the martyrs, the first Christian martyrs, who were all the little baby boys that Herod slaughtered to prevent Jesus from being the future king, because he was concerned with money and political power. And the story, the events of the martyrs, have to do with the journey of the three wise men. And I want to cover that later on after New Year's during the 12 days of Christmas. The 12 days of Christmas start Christmas Day and go to January 5th, which is the 12th night. And then the next day we have Epiphany, which is the day that the wise men arrived. And there are other elements of Christianity, Christendom, that are celebrated and observed during this time. The second day of Christmas is the wren hunt, if you're Irish, and is St. Stephen's Day, if you're Catholic, which I didn't cover St. Stephen because I'm Protestant. And the liturgy has changed in each denomination, and some Protestant denominations don't observe the 12 days of Christmas. The Amish completely ignore even the Gregorian date calendar change from the 1580s, because they didn't want to do anything the Pope had to say. Even before they were Amish, the denominations they came out of did not want to have anything to do with whatever the Pope did. So that's a thing, and each denomination is different. So I am going to change the order in which the martyrs, the baby martyrs, are talked about. I'll read that scripture after New Year's when I'm talking more about the wise men. Now, in this German nativity candlestick, there is the three wise men and the camels. And on this tier are the shepherds. And the shepherds are interesting. Now, this is German. They're fully adults. They have hats. They do have a crook on their shepherd's cane or stick. But when I think of the nativity and I think of the shepherds, I do think of maybe some of them were men, but in my mind, I picture the shepherd boy, and that's probably mainly because of David. And then on top here are the angels. But today, I wanted to focus on Kwanzaa. That's right, you heard me. I want to focus on Kwanzaa today. Kwanzaa is a celebration, a holiday for predominantly African Americans in the United States. It was started in Los Angeles in 1966 by a Swahili professor who wanted African Americans to focus on certain qualities in life and have their own cultural tradition. And it's not a religious holiday, it's not a political holiday, although many things around it have been politicized. Many things around just forces in the universe, we'll just say it that way, trying to cause divisions among people. But Kwanzaa is something not just for African Americans. Anyone of any race or any culture could study and observe Kwanzaa. It's quite the cultural phenomenon. It's been it kind of was more popular in the 80s and 90s than it is today. But I live in Florida. I mean, Google said only 2 to 3% of people observe Kwanzaa in the United States, but that's of all the people in the United States. That's not just African American community, and that's not just Florida. We have observances for it here in Jacksonville, Florida, Central Florida, certainly, Winter Park, Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, the major cities in Florida predominantly have Kwanzaa events out in the community. And that might be true for all over the United States, but what's going on with Chicago in Chicago with Kwanzaa is not making my news feed. I'll just put it that way. So, in a brief look, that's being celebrated all over the major cities in Florida. So, there are principles that were set forth, and each night a candle is lit. Now, I would have tried to set up a candlestick. Now, the candlestick is called the Kwanazza. It's the candle holder. I don't have one, but they use red, green, and a black candle. And I don't have green or black candles, so I just have this red one, and this is the shade of red that is used. It's not pinkish, it's fully red. And the red candle stands for the struggle, and some say the blood that was spilt for civil rights and during the time of antebellum slavery. The black candle stands for the people, and the green candle stands for the future. And when they light their candles, they light the black one the first night, the red one the second night, to the left of the black one, and then I don't want to strike that. They light the black one, and then they have the three red on in the same grouping, I believe, on the left, and then they have three green ones on the right. So they light black, red, green, black, red, red, green as the progression goes on. So on the third day, one black candle, one red candle, and one green candle would be lit. And each night, each candle stands for a different principle. The first night is for unity. The second night is for self-determination. The third night, which today would be the third day of Kwanzaa, collective work and responsibility. Aren't these wonderful principles to pass down in one's family and keep alive in your culture? The fourth night is for purpose. The fifth night is creativity, and the sixth night is faith. And the last day of Kwanzaa is on New Year's Day. So this is like the last week of the year. You're doing a reflection of what principles are important to you and your family. It's also harvest celebration, and there's a mat put out, and for each child in the family, an ear of corn is put near this mat, and the Kwanazza or candlestick is near this mat or on this mat too. They have the Pan American flag. They have a wonderful tradition of on the sixth night, they drink from a cup to honor their ancestors. So all these wonderful things are built into it, and the food is marvelous. Now here in the South, black-eyed peas and collard greens are included, but Caribbean cuisine like Caribbean sorrel, pecans, spicy vinegar, molasses water, and on the fifth night, a lot of people drink pink punch, like I'm not sure what they put in it. I don't know if it has grapefruit in it, but it's a pink punch that they use. It's very festive. And also on the mat, they will put mazo, which is fruit and other harvest things. Like, if they have pears or apples or things like that, just whole food fruits. And they have Cajun cuisine, like Cajun Creole fish, and a lot of things that are close. They have a dish that's close to jambalaya that they have. I mean, there's all kinds of wonderful foods, and the foods are generally symbolic of the principles as well and the culture. And usually they have the Pan American flag, which is red, black, and green. So red, black, and green are the Kwanzaa colors. And they dress in African style dress. And when I lived on the north side, which is a predominantly African American community here in Jacksonville, I had a green dashiki that I would wear. Now it wasn't multicolored; it was just straight up green dashiki with white embroidery around the distinctive neckline of a dashiki. And at the time, I had gotten a children's Kwanzaa book from the local library up there. And Marty and I went through the different nights of Kwanzaa. We were just kind of studying it during the event. We weren't actually lighting the candles. We didn't actually have a lot of food, but we read about it during that time. And at the time, I didn't really realize how appropriate it was for me to wear that green dashiki during Kwanzaa. I remember one time, and it's been well over 20 years ago, I walked into a convenience store and I was the only white person there, which was usually the case in this convenience store. It was owned by an Ethiopian man that I loved dearly. He was just such a sweet man, and he would talk to me about the Ethiopian Bible. So we would have theological discussions. But there was a young lady in there, and she was just so sweet, and she was smiling at me. And I said, "Happy Juneteenth," because it was June 19th. And she looked at me and she said, "What's that?" And nobody in that store, now this was 20 years ago, knew what Juneteenth was. And it was full of African American people. And so I explained to her about when slavery ended. They didn't have cell phones, they didn't have the internet, they didn't even have newspapers, and African American people weren't allowed to read. So not every African American community knew that slavery had ended. And June 19th, I think it was, I can't even remember the year, forgive me, but that's when the African Americans in Texas found out about the Emancipation Proclamation. Forgive me, it's like 2 in the morning. And I'm not spitting out my words just right. But anyway, that's what, so they were like kind of amazed and they'd never heard it. But I was glad to help spread the word about, civil rights when I could in the community. And I was appreciated by it by most people. But there's always people that are going to hate you for um, not being the right color, not being the right religion, not being the right political party, not being the right whatever they are. But I'm glad that I stood up and told people and informed people of stuff, even though there was a little bit of backlash towards me at times. I didn't mind it because once I became the victim of racism, and that happened to me multiple times, and I'm not going to go into, what happened, but I began to appreciate the maturity it took and wisdom it took for people that are continuously oppressed not to take it out on other people. In other words, if I go in a place of business and I'm treated differently because I'm white. It would be very easy for me to backlash to other African Americans because of what that one African American did to me. But I would never do that. That one individual African American was racist to me. That doesn't mean every African American would be racist to me or unkind to me. And through generations of oppression and having racism, put upon them by who knows how many white people, it would be very easy for an African American person to treat every white person like dirt. And I think that's what happened to the person that treated me like dirt because I was white. They were sick of white people. They were, what is it called now? They had white fatigue. I know there's black fatigue. Is there white fatigue? But it takes a lot of maturity. And another thing is, we're human. We have a conscious, we have a subconscious, we have an ego, we have an id, and we have a superego. And we have psychological triggers. One year, my husband pushed me against a wall, and I had a figure on a wall, dogwood figure on the wall, and I hit against that, and it fell to the floor and broke. So ever since then, when I see dogwoods, I have to control myself because it's a psychological trigger to me. And so another race, someone that looks like someone that's harmed you, can be a psychological trigger. So we have to watch ourselves. Sometimes people will get extreme and they'll have mothers that are horrible and say that this person's mother was blonde hair and blue eyed. So when this person gets so demented that they're not dealing with their psychology really well. I have a bachelor's degree in criminology. Sorry, I'm going here. But when they start killing people, they start killing blonde hair and blue eyed people because that's what their mom looked like. And she was not a good mom. So it's a psychological trigger. Not that, somebody is saying one little thing to me in a convenience store is going to ever cause me to, become a serial killer. But also, I have to understand that when I'm having future interactions with people, if that person looks like, and not just the color of the skin, there are other aspects of how people look. Maybe the person that did that to me also had a ponytail. So, if I have somebody with that skin color that has ponytail that looks very similar to the person that attacked me, then I might have a trigger, and I just have to watch myself because that's not the same person. Just like we can't generalize and attack people with the same eye color or hair color or skin color that's done us bad in the past. We have to, recognize those things and move on from them. But Kwanzaa is a lovely end of the year ceremony that the families can have. And it's like I said, it's not a political or a religious celebration. It's a time for the family to come together and emphasize what principles they want themselves and their family to have. Now, I'll say that to say this. In African American circles, the families that are Christian have added Bible verses. Like the last night is about faith. But today is the third day of Kwanzaa, and it's about collective work and responsibility. So let me go to a Bible verse that has been associated with this day in Kwanzaa, excuse me. It's in Galatians. And of course, there have been people that have done sermons on each night of Kwanzaa and completely looked at it from the Christian perspective too, because the principles of Kwanzaa are absolutely positively positive, and you can relate them to your faith if you're a Christian. So let me read Galatians 6:2. Bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. It's kind of like loving your neighbor on steroids. I've been through various phases of my life where I've had good economic times and bad economic times. And so I've been in a phase where I've had a lot of stuff, but have not had money. So in one hand, I have to ask for help, but in another hand, I can give. And it's just kind of weird how people react to you, because I have found that African American people understand my predicament way more than middle class white people. Middle class white people, even though I'm a middle class white person, have reacted weirdly to when I want to give and also I want to receive. I mean, it's like humans are in families, and like if your brother doesn't have bread, you give him bread, and maybe he can give you his time.